There is a Native American proverb that quotes, "We do not inherit the land from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." Hello, and welcome to the Bishop Gates Housing Program, a weekly documentary series where we enlighten you on housing, policies, schemes, mortgage plans, and so on. I am Vanessa Okoje, glad to have you join us today. This episode will bring to you a very interesting and important topic about the Land Use Act. Stay with us.
Land is a valuable resource by itself, which also contains other natural resources that increases its importance and value. Its use, however, encompasses a much wider interpretation and application, subsuming the social, economic, legal, administrative, political, environmental, technological, and physical spheres of planning and governance. In Nigeria, the Land Use Act of 1978 designates all micro-level roles in the execution of all land use activities to the state governments, while the federal governments assume macro-level regulatory roles.
The Land Use Act is an act of the National Assembly that came into force after Land Use Panel of 1977. The act came into effect to regulate issue of land allocation. The act has about 52 sections, and the Land Use Act in section 1, subsection 1 of that act, it vests all the land in a particular state into a governor of that state, who shall hold it in trust for government and also for the use of Nigerians. So it is expected that when a governor wants to allocate that land, he has to put so many things in consideration.
Anytime the government wants to use land, for example, there are some important projects, infrastructure, or something that comes to the economy like oil wells, if they need to prospect, you don't want to be bogged down in unnecessary or unreasonable negotiations with people who want to extract so much money that the project you're going to do becomes useless, or it will be so expensive because that project you're doing is for the benefit of society or the nation or the state or the local government or whoever, a group of people.
There was already a system before the Land Use Act, but because of the problem the government was having then, developing cities and organizing infrastructure. Imagine you want to build a major road and the community say we have to pay this amount of money, or the community say we are not selling our lands. To avoid those issues, then came about the creation of the Land Use Act.
The Act stipulates a leasehold system by the government with the right to develop lands for the growth of the economy, but not without compensations.
When you take somebody's land is that capital. Either he's using it as a place of business, or the person is cultivating crops, which is where you get money from. So if you're going to take that thing, that's somebody's way, a source to live in, earning an income. So you have taken that in away. So you have to compensate the person. But there are stipulations on how that compensation will be done by the Land Use Act based on the value of what has been put on the land. The land has zero value, has no value, but it's what has been put on the land. And the way the Land Use Act says is improvement on the land. So what is improvement on the land? Improvement on the land is supposed to be you build a house, you put infrastructure, there's a farm, whatever that is on the land. What gives the land the value is that improvement on the land. Land just in the bush, just land in the bush. So there's a valuation rate that professional valuers use depending on where it is. So compensation is a part of that process of land acquisition.
Once your land is taken, it has to be revoked first. Your title has to be revoked, then you'll be reallocated, either reallocated or compensated, whichever is the case. You have cases in Abuja where people are relocated, like you have the Apo resettlement. That was one part of the relocation plans, and you have people that in some cases are compensated. So government has that right, but for only when there's a public service that needs to be provided, either a school, or a hospital, maybe a train station. Like imagine this train station now, Metro Line Abuja, it passed through people's land, passed through villages. Everybody along that route has to be compensated or relocated.
The Land Use Act has its benefits.
The benefit of the act is that you will have the right to apply for a land anywhere in Nigeria. An Igbo man can go to Kano State, for example, and own land. A Kano man can go to Lagos and own land. So it is not subject to where you're coming from or your state of origin. That's the only place you can own land. You can apply for land through the state, the land authority, Abuja being FCDA, AGs, you can apply and you can get lands. Then on that aspect of the act is, you as an individual, you own the land and can make use of the land for a specific period. Then based on the land use also, different lands have different uses. You have farmlands, you have agricultural lands, you have hospital lands, hospitality lands. So based on the ownership of these lands, the state authority now can design the various cities based on in order of priority. Like in Abuja here, we have Idu industrial area that's majorly for industries, for factories. You have majorly residential areas, you have commercial areas. So based on the Land Use Act now, you can use the property specifically for what your title says. If this is residential, you have to use it for residential purpose. So it's more organized, it's more spelled out, and the processes are there to get lands.
Despite the importance of this act, there are challenges.
If I had some land and there was some possibility of me to getting some mineral deposits out of it, technically, that mineral deposit is not mine. When the government wants to buy the thing from me, the minerals under it, just they won't pay for it, or the potentials or whatever it is that's on it, they won't pay for it. So I've lost out. Or like in other countries, maybe in the US, people own land, but they'll just sell the land. But they say to you, what is under the land belongs to me. What's on top of the land? He doesn't need it because he's just wasting his money paying the taxes. So if it's for poor villagers, they could actually be richer because of the mineral that's on their land. But unfortunately, it's not possible. The Land Use Act has, rendered that possibility not possible.
If you say the lands are vested in the powers of one man, how does one man give consent on probably 1,000 allocations or 10,000 allocations? What period of time does he have to give consent on every matter, on every issue? So that's why you have so many backlogs. You have people that acknowledge that they've applied for land 5 years, 10 years, it's not been given. So you have allocations coming almost very rarely, and you're looking for consent. It's even a limitation to investment. You have an investor comes on to invest in land or want to invest in a particular location, and one of their securities is a statutory right of occupancy. It gives them the security that, okay, what they're investing is secured. And when it takes probably 7 months, 8 months, 9 months for them to get the governor's consent, investments like that are not open-ended. They're usually within a time frame. So in such cases, that's one of the limitations that you face when the Land Use Act specifies that all the lands should be vested with the state governor.
The resettlement and compensation thing hasn't been properly or well done over the years. If you look back, initially was done well, but I guess more could have been done. So today, a new way of doing this compensation should be with fingerprints. When you're compensated, you'll be given land, you might be given some money, because building houses for the people it seems like it's no longer working. But once you've been fingerprinted and your children have been fingerprinted, you can't come back in the future again. But what has happened is people got compensation. They'll sell out this is like Apo. If you go to Apo, what percentage of the people who were resettled are still living there? They're sold out, but they have scattered all over. And by the time there's a new place that has to come up, some of them will get compensation again. So these are things that have to be revisited. If the federal government gives you land and you do not develop it, but you want to sell it, the federal government has the first option to buy the land back or to redeem the land. So the process, in my opinion, for land allocation has to go through some change.
I think that body should be more independent. Instead of you to have it in one governor, let it be people who are, why not retire justice? Why not retire the civil servant, senior citizen, who will head that body, and even among them, any one of them can sign it. We can amend, but there's nothing wrong with the law. I think it's one of the best legacy the military has bequeathed on this country.
The Land Use Act is a laudable one which affords all Nigerians and foreign citizens the right to own and use land by ensuring effective and equitable utilization of land and its resources in any part of the country. However, like any other law, it is not without lacuna and can be improved upon.
An insightful topic, don't you think? The Land Use Act also ensures proper documentations for rights of occupancy. Don't go away.
Land ownership can present several challenges ranging from communal clashes to land grabbers. To forestall these challenges, the Land Use Act provides legislative structure to register and regulate the rights of ownership, use, and development of land and its resources.
Your title can be a statutory right of occupancy. It can also be customary right of occupancy. The third one is what we call certificate of occupancy. The statutory right of occupancy basically is given in respect of land located in an urban area.
Customary right of occupancy are mainly for local government lands. The difference is it's based on the jurisdiction. The area council plots, they have their jurisdiction. State-owned lands, they have their jurisdiction. They have their own same locations with different uses. Those area councils, they have different. You have some areas that are farmlands. You can mostly get them in the area councils, where you have high density, low density residential locations. You can get them also in area council and also in FCD, but mainly, like if you see what's going on in Abuja now, you have most of the residential areas. So most of those areas are statutory right of occupancy. When you come to the area councils, we further away from the town, the outskirts, Gwagwalada Area Council, Buhari Area Council, those are customary right of occupancy.
When the whole papers have been perfected and everything has been done properly, then at the end you get a certificate of occupancy, which is what the law is saying. That's the main title. So when you turn the back in Abuja, there's the good thing. There's a title deed plan. A title deed plan is that survey. There's a survey thing on the land showing the extent of the land, and the back of it is a certificate. So the certificate should say who owns the land, the name, how much of the land, the size, the use you're supposed to use that land for. What is not when they give you a piece of land, not that you can do anything anywhere. Then how long can you hold on to that land? Most CFOs are 99 years. After 99 years, it's going to revert back to government. At that time, what happens is that you go back to the government and say, look, yes, it's reverted back. I'm supposed to get a new, fresh distance. So if it's where you've been living, you're doing business, why would the government give it back to you? All they just want is the tax money. You have been paying your taxes, they'll give it back to you. maybe at a higher premium. So they say, okay, fine, this is what you're going to pay. So every year you come back to pay, or every time they do a review, then you pay the new review. So once that thing comes, most people think, oh, it's going to go back to the government will just take it back, then you have to buy it back from them. No, it's just what the government just does is just issue another this thing. So even if you want to give away your land, that's a title, you have to go seek the governor's consent. The governor has to approve it.
Those deed of assignment, they all come under what we call instruments. Instruments are vehicles in which an interest in plot of land, in a particular land, is transferred from party A, for instance, to party B. So those are legal instruments. The deed of assignment, of course, when an interest is still subsisting in a particular plot, before the residue, that's the remaining period, or whatever the interest that is left, because land under the Land Use Act can only be given for a specific period of time. That the remaining one, if party A wants to transfer the remaining part of it to another person, the instrument he uses is deed of assignment, simply to assign. You also have power of attorney. Power of attorney simply means a power given by a principal called a donor to another one called a donee to handle the land, to manage the land, or take possession of the land in a way as specified in the instrument called power of attorney. The governor consent, if one wants to transfer the interest, particularly that interest we are going to transfer, is going to be permanent in nature. For instance, you want somebody to take over a plot of land in one place, or you want to permanently, your interest, you want to divest yourself of the interest and invest it in another person. The law requires that you need to seek and obtain the governor's consent. Governor consent is consent the way we know is an approval to do certain things. And the law states that in section 23 or so, that when you embark on such transfer of that interest without the governor consent, it becomes null and void.
When you mention Gazette is basically the records of the layouts, the designs, the who owned which area, how they were compensated, the list of compensation. Gazette covers all that. It's like a history, it's a record book.
You could gazette that the place is an urban area, because in the Land Use Act, it says some places, if it's gazetted as urban area, you can't have more than a certain amount of land, actually, So these are different things. So just a gazette is an official record of saying this is this. So it's just an official announcement. So gazetted land is like the lands that have been officially said, look, these are lands that are, because some of them might be under the Gazette, but the government hasn't allocated it out. But this is the extent of the land, the see where it is, and all those things.
Land titles are essential instruments which one needs to ensure credibility when buying or selling landed property.
Blockmaking is an essential element for housing construction as it enhances sustainability and plays a vital role in economic development. We'll take you through the process of blockmaking. Keep watching.
Concrete blocks, also known as concrete masonry unit, is one of several precast concrete products used in constructions. Not only are they fire and flood resistant, they are also durable, affordable, and have very high insulating properties. They're basically of two types: the solid concrete blocks, which are heavy in weight while providing good structural stability, and the hollow blocks, which are light in weight and easy to install. Concrete blocks are made from a mixture of powdered Portland cement, water, sand, gravel, and weighs between 17.2 to 19.5 kg. Mixing the dry components in a consistent and measurable proportion at the start of production is key in getting the end product quality.
We measure 7 wheelbarrow of stone dust. That 7 wheelbarrow, we use it for 1 bag. If you look at this one right here, you understand? This one is 7 wheelbarrow of stone dust. Then this one right here is 5 wheelbarrow. If you measure the 5 wheelbarrow, it gives us 40 pieces. Then that 7 wheelbarrow gives us 62.
Water is then added to the dry blended components and mixed for 6 to 8 minutes. Once thoroughly mixed, they are forced downwards into a mold. The molds consist of an outer mold box and an inner mold box, both of which determines the shape of the concrete block. A short burst of vibration is also impacted on the mold to aid compaction.
If the operator over-vibrates, you will discover that the base, that the sitting of the block, will have some kind of parapet. It will not be equal. If you carry something like a tape or anything to measure it, it will not look, it will not be okay.
The concrete blocks are further pushed down out of the molds onto a flat pallet and let to air cure for 24 hours, after which they are water cured for 7 days, which gives it strength and durability. The concrete blocks are then ready to be shipped to the building site.
That's what we have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this insightful and captivating episode as we urge you to join us next week. Thanks for watching. I am Vanessa Okoji. See you soon.